Hi and welcome to another 10x Leadership video. This week I'm going to be building on the theme from the last couple of videos, in particular the last video about different meeting types. So it's one thing knowing that you've got a certain meeting type and you've got a certain purpose and you've set a meeting up to do that, but who do you invite? Who are the stakeholders that you need to engage with? So that's what this video is about this week, which is the efficiency hack that every leader needs to know, which is mastering stakeholder mapping. So if you haven't already seen the previous video about meetings, go and watch that, and then I suggest you come back and watch this one. I'll see you after the break. So as I say, this video's builds on the previous videos. It's about not just for meetings, but who do you invite, who do you engage, who do you invite to meetings, but who do you engage with more generally? And there's a really simple tool out there that I'm going to talk you through, which helps you with your stakeholder mapping. But let me just sort of paint a picture for you first. So you're working on a new project or a new activity, and there are hundreds, feels like hundreds and hundreds of people out there that you could engage with. And all of them have got various levels of interest in what you're doing. Well, who do you engage with? You know, how do you pick all of those out? How do you work out which of those people are important and which ones are less important? Because again, your time is finite, isn't it? So you've got to really make use of the time that you've got. How do you do that? Well, the answer is using stakeholder mapping and then targeting different groups with different activities depending on which group they fall into. So let's have a look at the model. And again, you know, whilst this is a model, the reason I'm raising it is because to be a great leader, you need a load of different things in your toolbox. You need a load of different methodologies that you can tap into, because these have proven to work and make you more effective and productive. And again, you know, this tool does exactly that. So I use it a lot. So like all really great models, it's really simple. So it's just a 2x2 grid. And as you can see there, you've got an influence axis. So the x-axis there is about whether people have a low level of influence or a high level of influence, or somewhere in between. And then the y-axis, the vertical axis, is their interest, and whether it's a low level of interest or a high level of interest, or, you know, again, a variety of places in between. That gives us 4 different quadrants, and I'm just going to go through each of those and talk you through what each of those quadrants mean, who falls into it, what you should be doing about it, how much time you should be spending in each of those slots. So watch until the end, because there's, you know, all of this is important. So the first box, this is the high influence, high interest space, as you can see from the axes there. And these people are your key players. I've done a little icon there of, you know, really it's, for me, this is typically your key supporters. You know, those who are waving a flag, flying the flag for you and your project. They really want you to succeed, but they're also really interested in what you're doing, and they are really influential. And because of that, they are people that you need to engage closely and regularly. So these are your key players that you really need to treat well. And these stakeholders need to be actively involved, and, you know, the word actively is there for a reason. You know, this isn't about just updating them occasionally. This is them actively be involved in decision making about this activity. I mean, I have used the word project, but some people then just think, you know, a project in the absolute definition of a project. This is really about, you know, a project or an activity or something that's important. So not only do you need to keep them actively involved, but they also need to be informed and kept informed at all times. And typically the sort of people involved here in this space are your key project sponsors and perhaps your senior executives. So I don't know, I mean, say I work, recently I've been working in the IT space. So if you're bringing a new IT system, you know, who's paying for that project? Those are the people who'd be really interested, as well as the senior executives that, you know, the reason that you've bought it in is because it's going to make have a massive efficiency saving for the organisation, or increase sales, or whatever it happens to be. So it's going to be the senior executives who are really interested. So keep them close, keep them updated regularly, keep them involved in decision making. And you want to be spending about 50% of your effort with this group of people, because they are that important. The second, I suppose second most important group you could say, is the high influence but low interest. So these are people that you want to keep satisfied, because if you don't, then because they're so influential, you might not have a project or an activity to deliver. They might take the funding away from you, they might deprioritize it. So these are people, if the thing that you're doing is important and is the right thing to do, that you want to keep satisfied. And in order to do that, you want to engage with them tactically. So you want to keep them satisfied, but you don't want to overwhelm them with detail, because remember, they're not very interested in what you're doing. So you know, these might be regulatory bodies or departmental heads, people that are not directly involved but do have a say about whether you can deliver this thing. And I say usually it's to do with funding or prioritisation. So, you know, make sure that you keep them happy, and you tell them the things that they need to know. And that is about 25% of your time. So 50% for your key players, 25% for those that you need to keep satisfied. The ones that have the influence, but not necessarily the interest. Just going to move that little axis out of the way so we can have a look at the next one. So the next one is, it's low influence, but it's high interest. So these people you need to keep informed. And the way that you do that is you communicate with them regularly. So you provide updates and you listen to their feedback. And typically this is, I don't know, team members or the end users of the project. Now, you know, if they're end users of the project, you're going to want to know what they're going to say anyway. But, you know, they don't have a massive say over how the project is delivered. They might not even have a massive say about, I don't know, the functionality of the tool, for example, if it's an IT tool. Because it might be that what you're doing is you're implementing an industry standard tool. But what you do want to know is, what do they think of it, and what pitfalls can they see? Because they may be able to help you overcome those and, you know, deliver a much better project and solution. So this is about communicating regularly with them, and listen to their feedback, but, you know, not spending that much time with them. So this is only about 15% of your time. And again, if you watch the previous video about different meeting types, you know, you might want to use different methods for this rather than have meetings. You might want to do, you know, you might want to have an intranet page, or depending on whether it's internal or external customers, you know, you might want to use an intranet page that gives people an update on projects. You might use mailing lists to give people, you know, a monthly update on you know, your project and how you're doing. You know, there's a whole array of different ways of doing it, including meetings. So pick the thing that works best for you and the situation you're in. And then the last one, I said it was simple, didn't I? The last one is for the low influence, low interest group. And for that group, you know, the the recommendation really is that you monitor them and that you have minimal engagement. And if you've looked at the other percentages anyway, you've only got about 10% of your time left for this group. This is about keeping them informed, but it's keeping them informed on a need-to-know basis. So the group above, the communicate regularly, the keep informed group, they are more interested. So you are going to want to communicate with them more. This one is just on a need-to-know basis. So, if you're in a large company and you've been dealing with your key players in the right-hand corner, you've kept your influential people satisfied in the bottom right, those who are interested, you've had regular conversations or communications with. This group is then thinking about, like other people in the organisation who might be interested, but, they might not be bothered at the same time. But it's about letting them know what's going on a need-to-know basis. So if it's going to have an impact on, I suppose, something that they are doing, or in fact that, there's going to be a launch event coming up soon, for example, it's not going to influence them, it's not going to have any detrimental impact on anything they're doing, but they just need to know about it because others in the business are going to be perhaps tied up. That's the sort of group you're talking about here. So these are distant stakeholders, as I say, with little impact on the project. So keep them informed, but on a need-to-know basis. So the thing to say about this as well is you can't just do it once. You need to regularly review where your stakeholders sit, because they might move about. Depending on the project, depending on their status and their activity, they might become interested, they might become influential, they might even become key players in it, especially if they are, I don't know, I'm thinking about systems again, IT systems, but there are lots of different types. But if something you're doing has a knock-on impact, or they have a project that you are dependent on, they'll become a key player. That might not have been the case when you did the initial stakeholder mapping. So regularly review this and check to see whether anyone's moving. I mean, they can be moving up, they could also be moving down. So it might be that people that you previously kept satisfied, they don't have the influence they did before. In which case, where are they now? Do you need to keep them informed, or you just need to monitor them and give them information on a need-to-know basis? So update your plans, update your maps. I mean, for me, it's probably updating your distribution lists as well, whether that's for newsletters or, other communications. Of course, if it's intranet or internet, people will self-select about whether they want to look at it or not. The other thing to say is that, there are alternative models, of course, to stakeholder management and mapping. So I just thought I'd mention, there's actually 4 of them I was going to mention. So there's the power versus interest grid, which really is almost the same as this, but it's got its power rather than influence. I mean, really, in my head, it's almost the same thing. But there are other models out there. If you're interested, go and have a look. There's the RACI matrix as well. And again, I use the RACI matrix, and I will do a video about this at some point. It's a slightly different purpose in my head, a RACI matrix. It's about understanding who's got authority, who is responsible for activities, etc. So there is a bit of stakeholder mapping involved in that, and that would help you understand who you need to communicate and consult with, etc. But it's a model for a slightly different purpose. But again, if you're interested, go and have a look. Like I say, I will do a video on it at some point, so keep your eyes peeled. I mean, you could subscribe, of course, couldn't you? And you could click the notification icon, and then when I do the video, you'll just be alerted. There's a salience model, which, to be honest, I don't know a great deal about, but it looks at 3 factors: power, legitimacy, and urgency, and it prioritises stakeholders in that way. So if you're interested in having a look at that, just Google it. I'm also going to have a look, and if it's something that I think is a really good tool to have in your toolbox, I will do a video on it. And then the last one is about network analysis, so mapping relationships between stakeholders to understand influence pathways. So again, if you're interested in that, go and have a look at it. I'm not covered in this particular video. I particularly wanted to cover this 4-box grid. So those are the alternative models. There might be others out there as well. Go and have a look. So just to sum up, there are a couple of things I just want to say. I think I'll click through this a few times. I don't think I've done a very good build on this one. If you want to go from the sort of chaos that you saw at the start, where you've got all your stakeholders scattered to the 4 winds, you don't know who's important out of that and who isn't, and you want to get from that to a much more organised, much more structured way of working, use this model. It's really simple, really easy. I say people can move about, they don't have to be stuck in there, but then you know what to do with each of them and how much time to spend. And I suppose the last thing to say, a bit like I've said in some of the other videos recently, is this model will help you to focus your precious time. And it really is precious time. It's even more precious as a leader, because you've got to help your team deliver as well as you've got to be effective personally. This helps you engage with the right people for the right amount of time, and it gives your project the best possible chance of success. So I recommend that you use this. Virtually every project or activity I've got, we understand who's important and where they fit in these boxes. It doesn't have to be a long, laborious process. It can be really, really quick to do, but it's definitely worth doing. And then using those different groups to target your efforts and communications. That's it for this video. Again, I thank you very much for watching. If you've got to this point, again, you deserve a medal. Share this with your colleagues. Let me know how you get on with it. If you think there's something wrong with it, give me a comment. If there are videos that you want me to cover in the future, drop me a comment. If you subscribe and click the notification bell, and actually if you like, all of that will help the channel, and it will help me continue to create these videos for you. I am thinking about creating a toolkit, because there's lots of things that we've talked about in recent videos are either mental models or models that you can use that help you become a greater leader and help your team be much more successful. I might just sort of corral those into a toolkit on the 10x Leadership website. If I do, I'll do a video about it and let you know. That's just going to take quite a bit more effort. So again, if you want to see that sort of thing, liking and subscribing just helps the channel, helps me do more things like that. Okay, that's it for this week. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Thank you very much.